There's a reason Parisian women seem to walk through a room and leave a trail of scent that lingers long after they've gone, while the rest of us are reapplying perfume in the bathroom by lunchtime. And it isn't because they're buying more expensive bottles. It isn't some secret French gene. It isn't even the perfume itself. It's something they do before the perfume ever touches their skin. A $2 trick that's been passed down in France since the early 1800s, back when Napoleon was emptying entire bottles of cologne over his head. The first modern perfumers were setting up shop on the Rue Saint-Honoré. And the wildest part? Most American women have everything they need to do this exact trick sitting in their bathroom right now. They just don't know what it's for. So if your $100 bottle of perfume vanishes off your skin in 2 hours, if you've been told to spray more, spray harder, spray on your clothes, and none of it works, stay with me. Because by the end of this, you're going to understand exactly why French women never reapply. What that $2 product actually is, and why the fragrance industry has absolutely no incentive to tell you about it. Let's start with the problem, because you need to see it clearly before the fix makes sense. Perfume doesn't disappear from your skin because it evaporates into the air. Not entirely, anyway. The top notes, those bright citrus and aldehyde openings, those are designed to flash off in the first 15 to 30 minutes. That part is supposed to happen. What isn't supposed to happen is the heart and the base notes vanishing 2 hours later. Those are the molecules that should anchor to your skin for 6, 8, sometimes 12 hours. When they don't, when your Chanel or your Dior or your Tom Ford goes silent before lunch, the culprit almost always is the same: dry skin. Specifically, dehydrated skin with no lipid layer for the fragrance oils to grip onto. Perfume is at its core aromatic oils suspended in alcohol. The alcohol carries the scent off your skin into the air around you, which is what creates sillage, that invisible cloud people walk through. But the oils themselves need something to cling to, something fatty, something that holds them in place while they slowly release over the course of the day. And human skin, especially American skin, under central heating, air conditioning, hot showers, and over-cleansing, is essentially a desert. You spray a beautiful, expensive fragrance onto a dry surface, and it has nothing to hold on to. So it leaves. Fragrantica forums are full of people complaining about this exact thing. Threads with thousands of comments. My Baccarat Rouge 540 vanished in an hour. My Sauvage doesn't last on me. I spent $200 and I can't smell it after lunch. Reddits are, fragrance has the plus C. Same posts every single week. And the answer almost nobody gives them, because it doesn't sell more perfume, is that the problem isn't the bottle. The problem is what's underneath. Now here's where the French come in. Go back to Grasse, the perfume capital of the world, in the 1800s. The wealthy women of Paris, who wore the earliest fine fragrances, the ones being blended by houses that would eventually become Guerlain and Houbigant, they had a ritual. Before they ever applied scent, they applied something else first. A neutral, unscented, fatty base. Sometimes it was a balm made from beef tallow and beeswax. Sometimes it was almond oil. Sometimes it was a simple petroleum jelly once that became available in the late 1800s. The purpose was never moisturizing in the way we think of it today. The purpose was creating a surface, a sticky, oily, fragrance-holding canvas on the pulse points, so that when the perfume went on top, it didn't evaporate, it stayed. It melted slowly into the warmth of the skin and released for hours. This is the trick, the whole trick. And the $2 product that does it better than anything else on the shelf is a small tub of plain, unscented petroleum jelly. Vaseline. The blue and white jar your grandmother had in her medicine cabinet, that's it. That's the secret French women never bothered to share, because in France, everybody already knows. And before you scroll away thinking this sounds too simple to be true, let me tell you why it works on a chemical level, because this is the part the perfume counter never explains. Petroleum jelly is what's called an occlusive. It forms a thin, semi-sealed barrier on the skin. It doesn't absorb, it sits. When you spray perfume on top of a dab of petroleum jelly on your wrist, the alcohol in the perfume still evaporates and lifts the top notes into the air the way it's supposed to. But the aromatic oils, the actual scent molecules, they get trapped in that occlusive layer. They can't sink into your dry skin and disappear. They can't evaporate off too quickly. They sit there, warmed by your pulse, releasing slowly for the entire day. Tests done by fragrance reviewers on YouTube, people like Jeremy Fragrance and others who have built whole careers stress testing longevity, consistently show that this single step can extend the wear of almost any fragrance by 3 to 5 hours. Some users on Baz Notes have reported even more dramatic results with heavier orientals and ouds. A perfume that dyed at noon now lasts until you go to bed, and it costs you about $0.10 per application. And if you want to know which other quiet, almost forgotten tricks Italian women have been using for generations to make a single spray of perfume outlast an entire bottle's worth on the rest of us. Go ahead and subscribe, because the next ones I'm about to show you are even older than this one. One of them involves something you probably already throw away every week without thinking twice. And while you're at it, drop me a comment and tell me your perfume that dies the fastest. The one you spent good money on and can't smell after an hour. I read these. I want to know what's letting you down, because half the time the bottle isn't the problem at all. It's everything around the bottle. Now, this is where I have to be honest with you. There are a lot of perfume myths floating around online, and I'm not going to add to the pile. You may have heard that rubbing your wrist together after spraying breaks the fragrance molecules. That's a myth. Fragrance molecules don't shatter from friction. What rubbing actually does is generate a small amount of heat that accelerates the evaporation of the top notes. So you lose that first bright burst faster than you would otherwise. The base notes are fine, so don't rub vigorously, but don't panic if you press your wrists together either. You may have heard that spraying perfume into your hair makes it last longer. That one is partly true and partly dangerous. Hair holds scent beautifully because the cuticle traps the oils. The alcohol in most modern perfumes is drying and can damage hair over time, especially color-treated hair. The French solution to this, and you can verify this in old beauty manuals from the 1920s, 30s, was to spray the perfume onto a hairbrush first and then brush it through. Much gentler, same effect. You may have also heard that storing perfume in the refrigerator extends its life. This one is actually true, but it's about the bottle, not the wear. Heat, light, and oxygen degrade fragrance oils. A bottle of Chanel No. 5 stored in a hot bathroom for 2 years will smell noticeably different from one stored in a cool, dark drawer. So if you have a precious bottle, keep it out of the sun and away from the shower steam. But back to the petroleum jelly trick, because there's more to it than just slapping some on your wrist. The placement matters. The French ritual, and you'll find this echoed in interviews with old-school perfumers from Grasse, focuses on 7 points. The inside of both wrists, the hollow behind both ears, the base of the throat, right where the collarbones meet, behind both knees, and the inside of both elbows. These are the warm spots. The places where blood runs close to the surface and body heat radiates outward all day. Heat is what diffuses fragrance. It's what turns a static smell on your skin into a moving, breathing cloud around you. So you put a tiny dab of plain petroleum jelly on each of those points. Let it sit for a few seconds, and then spray your perfume directly onto the balm. Not rubbed in, not blotted, just sprayed on top. The fragrance lands on the occlusive layer, locks in, and your body heat does the rest for the next 8 to 12 hours. Reviewers on Our Fragrance who have tried this report that perfumes which used to give them 2 hours of wear suddenly give them a full workday. And the kicker is that the sillage, the projection, actually improves too. The scent is releasing steadily instead of blasting off in the first hour and dying. There's another reason French women specifically lean on this method. It has to do with something the industry has been very quiet about for the last 20 years. Reformulations. If you've ever wondered why the Chanel or the Guerlain, the Dior your mother wore in the 80s smells different today, it's not your memory playing tricks on you. The International Fragrance Association, the IFRA, has progressively restricted or banned a long list of ingredients over the past 2 decades, citing allergen and sensitization concerns. Oak moss, the deep, earthy backbone of classic cypress like Mitsuko and the original Miss Dior, has been severely limited. Real animal musks were phased out long ago. Certain nitro musks, certain types of bergamot, certain synthetic compounds, all reformulated. The result is that many legendary fragrances today are shadows of what they used to be, with lighter, thinner bases that simply don't last on skin the way the vintage formulas did. French women who grew up with the older versions and know exactly what's missing, adapted. The petroleum jelly trick is partly a response to this. It's a way to squeeze every possible hour out of a modern reformulated bottle that frankly isn't built to last as long as its grandmother did. So when you hear someone say they don't make perfume like they used to, they're not just being sentimental. They are factually correct. And the workaround is the layer underneath. Now, if you don't love the idea of petroleum jelly, and some people don't, it's a petroleum byproduct. There are alternatives that work on the same occlusive principle. A plain unscented shea butter works beautifully. So does pure jojoba oil, which is technically a wax and behaves similarly on the skin. Aquaphor, which is petroleum jelly with a few added humectants, works even better for very dry skin. The key word in all of these is unscented. If you put a scented lotion under your perfume, you are layering two fragrances that were never designed to live together, and the result is usually muddy and weird. The French rule is simple. The base is silent. The perfume sings. And there's one more layer you can add if you want to go full Parisian about it. After the petroleum jelly, before the perfume, some women apply a small amount of unscented, oil-based body cream and let it absorb for a minute. This adds even more lipid content for the fragrance to bind to. It's the difference between a 6-hour wear and a 4-hour wear. On certain heavy perfumes, it can mean the scent is still detectable on your clothing the next morning. There's also a placement secret that goes hand in hand with this, and it comes straight from the old perfumery houses. Perfume rises, heat rises. So if you want the scent to surround you all day, you don't only put it at the top of your body. You put it lower. Behind the knees is the one almost nobody in America does, and it's the single most effective spot for all-day diffusion. Because every step you take pushes warm, scented air up around your body. Combine that with a dab of petroleum jelly on the same spot, and you've essentially built yourself a slow-release scent diffuser that walks with you. This is why French women can spray once in the morning and still smell incredible at dinner. They're not reapplying because they don't need to. The perfume is still working hours after the rest of us would have given up and pulled out the travel atomizer. Now, let me bring this full circle, because the real reason this trick has stayed quiet for 200 years isn't because it's complicated, it's because nobody profits from it. Department store fragrance counters make their money on volume. The more bottles you go through, the better for them. If your $100 bottle of perfume lasts you 18 months instead of 6, you finally figured out how to make a single application last all day. That's 3 bottles they didn't sell you. Travel sprays, rollerballs, refills, the entire reapplication economy is built on the assumption that your perfume will die by noon and you'll need to top up. A $2 jar of petroleum jelly threatens all of that. And so the advice you get at the counter is always about buying more, spraying more, layering with the matching body lotion that costs another $60. Never about the cheapest, simplest, oldest fix in the book, which, when you really sit with it, is the most French thing of all. Spend the money on the bottle that moves you. Then make it last with something that costs less than a cup of coffee. Elegance, the French would say, is knowing exactly where to spend and exactly where not to. So here's what I want you to do. Tonight, before bed, find a small jar of plain, unscented petroleum jelly. If you don't have one, any drugstore has them for about $2. Tomorrow morning, before you get dressed, put a tiny dab on each of those 7 points. The wrists, behind the ears, the base of the throat, behind the knees, the inside of the elbows. Then spray your favorite perfume directly on top. Go about your day and pay attention to when, if ever, it fades. I promise you it won't be at the time you're used to, and when you come back, drop a comment and tell me which perfume you tested and how long it lasted. I'm building the next video around the fragrances that respond the most dramatically to this trick. And the ones that, no matter what you do, just refuse to last on certain skin types. There's a reason for that too. It has to do with a single ingredient that the big houses quietly removed in 2008 that I'll be breaking down next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it, because once you understand what they took out, what they replaced it with, you'll never look at a fragrance counter the same way again.